The 2025 Southern Conference, Stewart Russell, Managerial and Teaching Commonalities.
Well, like I said, we have someone here that's been through pretty much anything you can think about in the tennis industry. Was great for me moving in and getting to know him and his partners as well. Also, one of our newest master professionals. So congratulations on that. Great accomplishment. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Stewart Russell. Go for it.
Well, thank you, Ken. I'm humbled and pleased to be able to present a little bit of my history. Grew up, it's interesting listening to Butch, grew up not playing tennis. I actually got recruited to play basketball in college, a school called University of Richmond, but I tore ligaments in my ankle and my fallback sport was tennis. Long story short, I've always been someone who has been a team player. I've been interested in playing team sports. I have two kids. I have a 31-year-old daughter who is an All-American soccer player at Armstrong in Savannah. And I have a son who is a Division I college baseball player at Kennesaw State University, both team sports. And my wife does play Alta in Atlanta, but I don't teach her. I'm always I've been around teens for my entire life. And what drew me to tennis, interestingly enough, was when I was in Roanoke, where I actually wound up falling back as tennis as a sport. When I went to Roanoke College, I was getting ready to graduate. My wife's 2 years younger than me. My to-be wife was 2 years younger than me. She was a soccer player. And the head men's tennis coach came to me and said, "Hey, you're doing really well here, and I know you're going to stay in town. Would you be interested in taking over my position?" So I think long history lesson is I think I might be the youngest appointed tennis coach in the history of NCAA because I was actually appointed it. They couldn't formally appoint me at the end of my junior year, heading into my senior year in high school, because he was moving on. So I found that very awesome. I wound up teaching at a country club in the Hidden Valley Country Club in Roanoke, Virginia, and working for a guy named Tom Gibbs. Great mentor in understanding the country club side of the business. Long story short, we then moved, my wife and I moved to Atlanta because was a good friend of mine at the time because I worked with his daughter, Tom Gorman. I was working with his daughter, Haley Gorman. He told me, "You need to get to Atlanta. You need to get out there and we need to take you to a place where your passion and your energy can be appreciated in this community that is just thriving." My wife and I made the jump, came there, worked at a country club, Brookstone Country Club, which was a member-owned country club, and met a couple of friends just through networking events that owned and managed Chattahoochee Plantation, they owned it, which was across the street from Atlanta Country Club where Ken was. And they said, we're thinking of evolving out. We're thinking of getting out of owning this club because we've been approached by the city of Atlanta about managing the municipalities and we need help. They were going to shut down the city of Atlanta sites. And so at that point, they made a very, very unique twist in our business because we went from owning something, where we had to make a decision as a group of us, owning something to where we were going to be beholden to contracts at facilities and what was going on with contract renewals and all that stuff. We did that 13 years ago, and I look back at it now, and I don't know how we navigated it, but it's evolved into us actually now managing like 7 different types of sites in the Atlanta area. We manage a couple of municipalities, we manage some HOAs, swim and tennis. We manage a private club, and we manage some semi-private clubs. So what I wanted to talk a little bit today about it, first a show of hands, how many, just out of curiosity, work in these types of facilities, whether municipality, a public facility? Anybody show of hands, public? I'm just curious. I'm trying to make this relatable as possible. Private clubs? Semi-private, meaning, okay, and then HOA or a swim and tennis, where, okay, so it's a mixed bag. So we, as a management company, made the decision to start to branch out. This was just word of mouth. We started the City of Atlanta sites, and we had some other people approach us and said, hey, we like this team atmosphere of what you guys are doing as far as managing. And we'd be interested in, so for whatever reason, they're going to need to change it. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. I'm not a huge fan when people go and they approach people about talking about what was bad about the previous regime. I'm not a huge fan of that. It was an opportunity that somebody had that's for whatever reason just didn't work out. It's always something that I've held near and dear when I interview staff or when we interview for a possible facility. What happened in the past is not that important because it was an opportunity somebody was given that for whatever reason didn't align with what maybe the club or the municipalities have. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that too, as far as municipalities having a different agenda possibly than some of these HOAs or swim and tennis. So that's just something I've always held near and dear to my heart when we talk about, being competitors and whatnot. Atlanta, we have a little bit of a bias. There's a huge player pool in the Atlanta area of people that are looking for some type of our services. I know it's different from some people in different states. We're talking at the round table from a couple of guys from Arkansas. It's just a different player pool of people that are requesting you. So we don't really spend that much time on trying to navigate what our competition is doing. We like to learn what they're doing, but we like to try and be creative in our own way on how we navigate when we enter into contracts. That's just something I've always held near and dear to my heart, talking about past regimes. The types of facilities, as you see here, are listed. I want to talk about this. I know Butch alluded to this, so I did not know he was going to discuss this. But 12 years ago, I was privileged enough to have Alistair McCall come and speak to our group of junior tennis players. And it was one of the, I drove him to and from the hotel, and I was talking to him about when we were starting this management group and trying to pick his brain and how it could be relatable to what we were entering into. First thing he told me was, what's your company mission statement? And I, like probably a lot of people here, kind of looked at him and said, holy mackerel, I don't know if I could even recite it to you. So it was just a very valuable learning lesson, because without that, it's going to be very hard for you guys to do it. And what I wanted to talk about here, as you can read it, and I highlighted a couple of words. Universal tennis management exists to promote, and this is not to actually talk about what we specifically do. I just wanted to relate it to you. The growth of tennis with adults and juniors in and around the City of Atlanta. We promote tennis, growth instruction, comprehensive programming, quality customer service, a lot of words. What I found out is we were coming from a facility called Universal Tennis Academy. So the perception was we were working with juniors, high-performance juniors, okay? When we entered into this, it was like, everyone was like, well, wait a minute, we have adults in our mission statement. Why are we Universal Tennis Academy? And that's what we turned into Universal Tennis Management, UTM, as opposed to UTA. So that was the first thing we did when we did this 13 years ago. What's interesting about a lot of the words that are in here, comprehensive programming, quality customer service, club management and operations, ethical practice. Our interesting part of working in municipalities, HOAs, all of those have specific prioritized lists with what you're doing for those that are empowered to manage it. They're all can be interchangeable. We work at a facility, for example, to where we have the charitable endeavor. We work with Atlanta Youth Tennis and Education Foundation at one of our public facilities. So obviously the partner who oversees that has to take a little bit, or blending what they're doing takes a little bit more priority about what we're doing at an HOA where it's adult driven and juniors become secondary. So the whole parts of our mission statement that actually get kind of highlighted here all become interchangeable when you're managing different types of facilities. With that comes a massive struggle when you're talking about it, because what happens is, on my next slide, see if I can get it. I've designated 20 minutes this, and I'm going to take 20 minutes, I promise you, but talked about it earlier, the due diligence and the history of a facility. When we consider entering into some type of an agreement with someone, we do the due diligence and we learn the history, but a red flag is saying bad things about the previous regime. Someone was provided an opportunity that simply didn't work out. Now we move on. How can we make this experience better? What can we offer you as a company, okay, that might not have worked out And then what you have to understand is that there's going to be some wants and needs, and plus you guys have, in our group, I learned when I was doing this all along, I thought I could do everything. Okay, then I was an individual I was probably the worst delegator in mankind. Okay, going into a management group, what you got to understand is that it is so little about you. It's about whether or not you've developed and implemented the resources for your underlings, for lack of a better term, sort of the staff, to be able to navigate what the wants and needs are going to be for these different types of facilities. I'm not going to put a round object in a square hole. I'm going to make sure that we have individuals that we see fit when we're tackling an HOA, and it's going to be completely different than somebody that's working in a public facility or at a private club. So private club, I know that I've talked to several private club managers, and they're looking for people and they're looking for help, and they'll actually call me and ask me, is there anybody you think? I'm not going to talk to them, someone who's experienced in a public facility and has zero idea what happens at a club, simply because they get eaten alive by the members. It's just a different, navigation tool is very, very important. I did say on there, control the controllables as it relates to above. It's okay to say no. There's nothing wrong with, once we have to make an informed decision as a manager, trying to decide whether or not we want to enter into an agreement with someone for saying, I don't feel that our company's goals are going to align with what you're offering. I know and we talked about growth and sustainability. I would rather tackle, I want to be careful that you don't rob Peter to pay Paul in what you're doing as far as a business venture. And I would rather sustain something and really have fun going to work. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, a slide on one of my PowerPoints. The quality of life and just having a staff that wants to go to work, rather than just trying to grow because we want to make more money or something like that. I just have a hard time with doing that, and I take a lot of pride in that. It's okay to say no. That we've been offered a couple of opportunities that we just didn't see fit. So it would have been easy for us to accept a stipend from an HOA that was going to try and give it to us. But at the end of the day, we're like, I don't know how we're going to navigate it. If it was a financial return, that's the reason we were doing it. I just didn't feel we had the support staff that it made sense for us to do that. I would rather spend the resources, or our internal resources, on staying at a site and growing programming there than just taking the easy dollar that maybe an HOA was going to give us and try and put somebody in a position that just wasn't something it was a short-term gain for not something that had no end game for us that we desired. Understand the parameters and range of acceptability. I think Marcus asked the question a little bit earlier, and I think this has changed in our business. For one thing, you can never compromise are your non-negotiables, whatever they are. A long time ago, I actually had a non-negotiable, and I was one of those hard bosses, and we talked about, I think it's changed in our business a little bit. If you're going to be a good leader and a good manager, you're going to have to understand there's a range of acceptability in what you're tolerating, but your non-negotiables cannot change whatever they're doing when you're entering into an agreement. Okay, this can be very, very difficult on the next slide I'm going to show, because everyone's got a different agenda for why you're there as a management group. Example, public facilities, when you do that, are transactional. A lot of people don't, it's simply it's money for the people of the public parks. It's not their fault. They're looking for the best value for them financially for you to be there. Okay? The public parks and rec director is not going to care a whole lot about what's going on a small snippet of the tennis scale, whereas it's everything to do with what you're doing in a private club. When you talk about that or an HOA, you're theirs, or you're somehow beholden to a group, and you have to be careful on how you navigate that. I know the 80-20 rule takes on a lot of different meanings. The tennis pros proverb, the bottom line is 80-20 rule. I've heard it talked differently. If you can please 80% of the people, 80% of the time you're doing a good job. I've also heard the recent one, which was a lot of facilities, the 80-20 rule, the 20% are the ones that are engaged, while the 80% or the 80% are just okay. They're not active, not participating. Of the 20%, you can have people that are drama-filled in HOAs. You can have 10% that are. Let's see if I can cut that out. Excuse me. the 80-20%, yeah. So you're gonna, and you know, I've heard it, you know, when you dance with a customer, let them lead. As long as you're not compromising your non-negotiables, whatever your non-negotiables. A relatable story is, I started to implement something at the site I was at. I couldn't stand cell phones. I just couldn't stand cell phones from our staff. So cell phones can't be on the court. It just drove me crazy. So I tried to create a facility that said no cell phones. Coaches, we're just not using them. So then I bought in those little baskets where you can put your cell phone in and your water and whatever. And I found myself, and I was like, that's a non-negotiable for me. I don't want to even talk about it anymore. I want to see cell phones, right? What's my range of acceptability? And I started having people question me, well, I have my wife or another. I understand. Okay, it's a non-negotiable. Got to the point where even I did it, we tried to do it with students. Non-negotiable on your phones. New age, right? We're going to check them in and put them in a bucket. Right? How long did it last? Not long enough, right? So you got to stick. There's some stick to itiveness, and I think what Marcus was alluding to is that has it changed? Yeah. Whatever you're doing and you're trying to do it, please don't compromise what those non-negotiables are when you're dealing with clients. I've had different stories, relatable. I'm sure some of you could relate to them. I remember doing the lottery for the ladies who wanted the 9:30 to 11:30 slot at the private country club, and we did a lottery system, and we had to pick it out of a hat. Okay, this goes back to my allusion time when you dance with a customer, let them lead. We're walking in there, and we're picking out of a hat lottery system for the 9:30 to 11:30 slot for the two coaches that are going to be able to coach them. And it's literally a lottery system, and the lady picks it out, and she goes, it's fixed. You like the 18 better. Lottery system, you picked out of a hat. I'm sorry, you got Wednesday versus... And I just like, that 10% of those people, I don't know how you navigate. I understand. You just got to be consistently consistent on how you're dealing and what your approach is, and you know that it makes business sense for you to do it this way. It was very difficult because that lady actually ran that up the flagpole with the general manager to where she took it to another level and all these things. And I'm saying to myself, this is crazy. I've never had to deal with that in a municipality. Okay? These people are members. They feel like you're beholden to what they're doing. And I was like, I remember doing all these things. And I'm saying there's a place and time for us when, and that goes back to my due diligence, what I talked about when you're doing it in a facility. I'd rather not enter into a facility and put my support staff in a situation like that. But in some of these situations, you don't have a choice if you're going to enter into a deal. You got to just understand what you feel as you're doing is you're not compromising what your business values are, your core standards are, and the culture you're trying to create, and you're just going to have to let the 10% continue to be the 10% just for whatever reason. I started asking my question when I started doing this. Our business is different. It has no blueprint that's going to make everyone happy. And the question was, why? Here's the example I use, always to my staff. It's because people are using the facility or using your services for different reasons. Okay? Most people, when they go to frequent, or the hospitality business, when they go somewhere, they're going for a specific reason. The example I always use to my staff is Great Clips. I remember I used to go to Great Clips to get my hair cut. I remember going in there. I'm only going in to get my hair cut. And I remember sitting down, and the lady who was cutting my hair was also the receptionist. The phone was ringing. She, excuse me, on my shoulder. It takes 15 minutes to cut your hair. Excuse me. Okay? She would go get the phone. Then she would come back and she'd do my hair. Excuse me again. The phone would ring. Finally got to the point where I'm saying to myself, hey, I'm here for a haircut. That's the only reason I'm here. Okay? I didn't say it out loud. Okay? But I didn't go back to the Great Clips ever again. I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Okay? The reason I say that is because when you're dealing with municipalities, when you're dealing with HOAs, everyone is coming for your service for a different reason. There's a release factor. There's a social factor. There's actually a development factor that they want to get better at the sport. Okay? And you just need to understand it. It's what it is. So there's no blueprint on how to deal with it. If I go to Chick-fil-A, I'm going to get chicken sandwich and waffle fries. That's it. That's what I'm going to get. I can expect that. With members and customers and clients that you're trying to make happy, you have no idea why they're showing up to you for that specific day. So therefore, there's no blueprint on how to navigate it. It's going to be different. Okay? This group is going to be different than this group. It's just facts. This is what we're dealing with in this industry. And I thought that was very important when we start to talk to staff. about what we're doing and why we're entering into an agreement and where your time can be spent. Anybody have any questions on anything that relates to this? I just want to open up at anything that they see in there. The one part I do want to transactional versus relational as far as ours. And I know we talked about investment earlier. Investment, I'm talking about our resources. It's just the facts. Transactional businesses, if that's what you're doing, or in it, and they're primary, if you did a scale of the prior list, like a municipality, it's going to be a bottom dollar thing. How much can you offer us for said service? I find that HOAs and or membership-driven clubs are more about relationships first. Financial second. Kind of like an interview. Somebody, the first kind of, I've always been told that, first time, and again, new age, first thing that comes out of someone's mouth when they're interviewing for a potential, how much money can I make? Okay? I get to hear that at a municipality as far as entering into an agreement. How much money is this? What's the financial, what's the transaction part of this whole thing? Okay? That's going to be first and foremost. It's like you see this contract that's there, and everyone scrolls to the back of the book to see what the compensation package is. Okay? With membership-driven clubs and or HOAs, I think that should take a back seat. It's about the people that you're putting your staff around on a regular basis, and I think the relationships that you're putting in that environment and the network you're with should take a more of a primary role than the transactional part of it, which is the financial component. That's my personal opinion. We live by that. Does your staff want to be around this membership? Does your staff want to be around this clientele rather than how much money are we making from said clientele? I know it's a little different for somebody that's getting paid a salary from a management group to be the tennis pro. That's not the way we do it. We're actually kind of subcontracted out to manage their clientele as opposed to them paying us fees. Anybody else, anything else that stands out on there? Any questions on anything on there? As relates to anybody here? Okay. I'll move on to the next one. If I can scroll here. Mouse is not working. Do it again. Like that. Your mouse is not working. I want to scroll. Trip again. Come on.
It's up in the corner.
Is it?
Yeah, it's over.
There we go. Thank you. I wanted to just talk about a little bit for a quick second about the on when we enter into agreements. What we're looking at as far as our company. Some of the things we're going to make an informed decision. That's all we're doing at the end of the day on whether or not we think we can add value, go back to the term value, to what somebody's asking us to do. Interesting enough, some of our contracts are 30-day out clauses. Tough to invest in a facility when you got to take that into consideration when you're doing it. I mean, how many resources are you going to pump into a facility that your out clause for either party or the other is 30 days or 60 days? It's very difficult. Other contracts we enter into is at least our yearly contracts. Most of the municipalities were on, the original ones were on 5 years with 5 one-year renewals. So those are just interesting timeframes associated when we do, and how much as a company are we willing to invest our inventory and our resources into some of these contracts. Is what I'm talking about there. And the ultimate day as partners and or managers, we have to have what we call club eyes, for those of you obviously who've been through the education system, and make an informed decision on whether or not we feel the pulse of the environment we're putting our staff and ourselves into makes sense. It's a balancing act the way we do it. 30 days, 60 days, not a huge fan of. Okay? But have we done it before? Yes, we've done it before. We did it with a couple of HOAs that we've done it. Just to give our staff an opportunity to grow. Give those that we're trying to push up to the next chain in our organization. We gave them an opportunity to see. We basically were very honest with them. We said, hey, this is a 30-day out clause for whatever reason. Okay, are you interested in actually moving? We think it's worth to try and put you in this position because we think you'll do a really good job. So it's more of an elevation type of idea. There's obviously a risk reward in owning versus renting space because we are beholden to contracts. Pretty self-explanatory. People are beholden to members. That means they're making the decisions. We are beholden to contracts because we don't own anything. We don't have an asset per se. Our asset is our contract. Okay, it's a difficult task. We've done very, very well in providing enough good customer service that if one person or one group is, and again, this is where I'm a little biased for the Atlanta market. We can be a little bit more picky and choosy just because of our player pool, probably in the Atlanta market and some other people in different areas of the South, on making sure that we're trying to make an informed decision on whether fits our company's interest of what we're trying to accomplish. I know it's not as easy for everyone else when we're doing that. Trying to think of anything else in that. Nothing else in that per se. I also have a Henry Ford. I promise Butch and I did not know what we were speaking about, but I do have a Henry Ford quote that's one of my favorite ones. Coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. It relates to reviews and check-ins with your staff. This is when we're doing it. I understand that probably everyone, this is something that's a non-negotiable for us. Okay, one of the non-negotiable, get back. We do biannual check-ins. We don't call them reviews because obviously with reviews, what does it come with? How much more, how much am I getting as a raise? It's the first thing. Check-in is not raise oriented. It's check-in with your staff. See if they're interested. And I'm going to talk a little bit later on something that happened with one of those check-ins, which is very interesting with our staff. And that is just open lines of communication with your staff. Obviously, you see them on a regular basis. They're going to be more apt when you guys have meetings to not talk, but they're going to be much more when you talk with them individually about where they feel they are as far as their quality of life, what they're looking to do in this business. So we do have staff meetings, but those are open for generalizations on what we're trying to accomplish. Individual staff meetings are very important, and I know it goes on a daily basis, but I'm talking about a flat-out check-in. I'm not talking via email, I'm not talking via text. Sit down, really take time, cancel lessons to sit and do a check-in, okay? And find out what's going on, how they feel they're doing, so therefore at the end of the year, I'm going to be speaking a little bit tomorrow on one of the questions that I know a lot of people have been talking about for the last several years, about trying to find young pros that are hungry in our organization to come out. We created a pilot program, and again, this is not UTA, on how we feel it makes best sense as far as it relates to continuing education with the RSPA, making it mandatory for our full-time pros. We pay their dues, and then show them what we expect when we pay their dues. We not only pay for them to be tested, we pay their annual dues. So RSPA is happy that I put 39 new staff members in their organization in the last couple of years. I don't want to talk about how it is, but tomorrow morning when we talk about our roundtable, I'm going to show you what we're doing and how we're doing that, because I don't want that to be part of this presentation. But I think it's really worked well, not for getting just that young group in, but it's basically showing the young pros that this can be a career, but most importantly, what we expect of them if we're going to invest in them by getting them certified and paying their dues. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about tomorrow, and I'll have a handout for people if they want to talk to me more about that. I'm more than pleased to share that with you. Being concerned with your character, I feel that I'm a firm but fair. My non-negotiables cannot be changed as a manager. I think the majority of my staff knows what those are. But I also understand I have to have a range of acceptability. I got to know who we're dealing with as far as the staff. And I want to make sure that as a group, or we want to make sure as a group and with the rest of my partners, that we're putting the right people in the right place to succeed, get the right people on the bus, get the wrong ones off. I think this last one is very, very important. Nothing would kill a great employee faster than watching you tolerate a bad one. I absolutely, completely agree with it. Whether it's from picking up trash, picking up balls after practice, if the employee's going to see you do it for one differently, and I think on a previous slide, I consistently consistent, kills the culture, kills the atmosphere. So, and the same thing, you need to lead by example. Don't be that manager or be that person that is not going to also do the same. And it goes to club eyes, picking up trash like we talked about. Just common sense. It's part of your job. We expect it. It's a non-negotiable. I think it's a really important one. I want to talk about one other thing here before I go on. Just a quote at the top. Time is what we want most, but what we use worse. We've been lucky enough, again, the support staff, we have a lot of people that come and want to work for our company. I'm a team guy. I'm not an individual. I used to be the worst delegator in the world. Time management was not something I was strong at. I thought I could do it all. In being in a management group and finding out how we can help each other and I think we currently have full-time employees. I think we're up to 87 full-time employees. A couple of different roles. There's some financial components to what we have. Financial personnel, which are non-revenue generators, they're non-revenue controllers on how we're doing it and showing a level of professionalism, but the majority of the rest of that 87 people are teaching pros. Okay? What I've learned is I need to do a better job of compartmentalizing, finding out what is going to make me as a leader of a facility. And again, this is all going to be different whether you're at a member club, at an HOA, or a public facility. And then embody and hold people accountable and responsible when you're doing it. Responsibility and accountability is something I hold near and dear to my heart. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I think one of the easiest ways to do it is the simple thank you, face to face, not via email, not via text. And I think that members appreciate it. A simple thank. When you're doing it, it should be because you did it. I'm going to give you another $1 an hour in drills or something like that. And that's for your annual check-in, whether or not you've checked all the boxes that we expected to you. In fact, anybody in our company actually will not, the first thing they know, one of my non-negotiables, if they come, staff I run, they come at the end of the year since I paid for their dues, they know they're not even going to get a raise. If I pay their RSP dues and they don't go to and I look at their education report card at the end of the year and they have nothing, not only will we not pay their dues the following year, they're not even entitled to a raise. So I know it's hardcore. I know that sounds firm and fair, but that's the facts. Okay, that's the way we do it. Okay, I'm not saying everyone has to do it that way. Okay, range of acceptability, but that's just the way we've done it in our things. What I found in this is an interesting one. Delegate to others where appropriate. I think a manager's job is to give employees the opportunity and guide them to find their niche. I'm going to use this as one of my last parts of my presentation in talking about it. By communicating, we were talking about it earlier, about 4 years degrees and what's the importance of it. Had an annual check-in with one of the individuals in our staff. I found out, I never looked at her, I promise I never looked at when I saw her resume, where she graduated from and what her degree was. I just did. I needed a pro. She was energetic. She was vibrant, whatever. We were lacking in our social media presence. She comes to talk to me, and she walks into her first check-in, and she gives me a proposal that was 4 pages long on how she would like to be our social media director. It's like, this is really good. This is unbelievable. Okay? I'm like, I would have never known it if I didn't have annual check-ins or constant talking about it. She now is in charge of our entire social media platform. We've gotten rid of the company that was doing it. And I wear this pendant on my neck. That's something to do with me, my core values. And it's like, a parent should give children the gift of roots and a pair of wings. And grow. Same thing as manager. The manager should explain what the standards, the culture we're trying to be develop, and let them kind of see something else out there as an opportunity. Okay? The girl now not only become a better tennis pro, more energetic, but she appreciates the fact that we were able to have open lines of communication, and now she's our social media director. Now I do have it very clear in her contract that it is not to take away from her prioritized list, which is still being there on time for drills, being energetic and being drilled, because she now has basically a side job. But what she's done with her social media presence in 3 short months has taken it from here to like there. Look at the insights, and she's showing, she's taking pride, she's growing in our environment. And we've never known it unless I had check-ins and constant communication with our staff. I just use that as an example. So make sure that you're giving people the opportunity. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. But as a manager, I think it's something you owe it to the individuals on your staff.
Another way I do it, compartmentalizing, avoiding. I hate this one right here when I ask pros, how are things doing?
I'm busy. There's no excuse for us to be busy if I have 87 people that I trust and I want to be in our system. So I've done a poor job of compartmentalizing, giving people opportunities to grow on some things that are making me too busy. You hear it all the time in our business. How you doing? I'm busy. Okay, I understand if you're a one-man show and that's all you have and you're busy, I get it. No excuse for a company like ours for me to be that busy. If I have staff that can do it and I trust them, I got to give jobs and delegate to them. Something we're dealing with another organization that I'm actually talking about is, board, American Racket Sports Association. We're talking with Sean. We got to give our board members jobs. I'm not doing it all. I'm the president. Okay, woohoo. But I got a group of people that all want to be on this board. We got to talk to them about what their job is and how they can help this organization. I'm not doing that, and that's not my primary role. So I think you owe it to your staff to do that if you have a staff, is to let them blossom. And I am, and I know we sometimes get the credit, especially at facilities where financial numbers are off the charts. The members are really happy, whatever, they'll go to the person. Please, I take nothing more pride than when I get a compliment on one of my staff members, more so than me. I'm not really doing much. I understand it's like a great college coach that gets credit for somebody you've developed for all these years that goes to the school. And the end of the reason that they're that good is because you as a college coach. No. It's what they've done all along, and you just have reinforced it proactively. Right? It's the same with your staff. I'm there, my presence is there, but I promise I didn't make your experience good, my staff did, and there's nothing better, okay, than when I hear that from customers about the rest of my staff rather than me being the one. And that goes back to the whole team concept rather than individual. I understand it's an individual sport, but is it really? Is our business really individual? Networking, getting to know, learn from other people? It's a team effort that we're all trying to do. I know it sounds a little bit different from somebody, again, with the bias in Atlanta, because we've all, I don't think I've ever tried to steal a customer from someone else. I would never do that. But I don't need to. Because people are coming to us and asking for our services. Okay, well, there's no need to recruit people and recruit units. And I know it's difficult in some states where the player pool is a lot less than that. But in Atlanta, it's not. We don't recruit.
So that would be on those. I am a huge calendar guy to track progress. I still use my daily planner. I brought it. The RSPA one's really good, the new one. The RSPA new daily calendar. It's got it broken down. It's got a little place to the right where you can put your notes. Okay, I use it all the time. So I'm still a manual write-down guy. It just keeps me on track with my ADD. Okay, it just keeps me going. Just because I have something to manually look at. I don't use my phone for that type of stuff. I know a lot of people do. It's just the way I operate. And I also do that with our staff. We give them a planner. We also have a calendar on the wall, making sure that we're prioritizing our tasks for the day, daily planners. I'm a write-down guy. I am not, I even did that with our students. I asked my students one time in a drill group when they're doing it, how many of you have a notebook? Right? Very small, short hands. These are high-performance kids, right? How many of you know everything that we've done for the last couple months in drills? And you have a couple of cerebral kids that might be able to spit some stuff out, and you'd be like, wow, that's pretty good, right? Well, I know what you all have, okay, and that's phone. Because you use it on every break that we have. You're looking at TikTok or you're doing something. So what I decided to do is, instead of doing that, I tried to piggyback. I have a big board in our indoor facility. And on that board, we do notes, and after each session, they have to write it down, and they have to take a picture of it. Now it's in their phone. Okay? That's their notebook. So it's adaptability. In other words, I would have never thought of wanting them to use the phone. Heck, I was having them check in their bucket. So I learned, okay, since they're going to use their phone, and I'm not going to be the only one who's going to be the bad guy who's going to tell them not to use their phone, here's what we're going to do with the phone. We're going to have a purpose with the phone. They're going to go on changeovers. They're going to go over there. They're going to look at this. They're going to take notes. Heck, I even had some other kids writing down notes from the drill. Make them take a picture of it and take it home. There you go. Adaptability, just interesting, creative ways to attack different things. Be willing to, how would I do this again? There we go. This I have posted right inside our indoor core building. We do a lot of instructing indoors. It's like a tent structure. It's not actually an indoor facility. Okay, but it's a tent structure. And I actually made it up when we're doing this. You understand you've been afforded an opportunity to help create the atmosphere in which the culture being created is one that at energy level that is contagious. I took this, you value the T and teamwork. Okay, now it takes all the different reasons. Basically is, I tell all my staff members, check your individual ego at the door. Bottom line. Do it with all the players too, all the juniors. It's not about you. It's about the environment we're creating, the culture we're creating. It's right there. It's always like the Michigan or Notre Dame when they touched before every drill. If I feel like something's getting out of control, I'm going to make over there and go read it or touch it, okay, when they're doing it so they understand it. Okay, they get it in their little notes when they sign up for the academy. And that is, we are a group program, we are a staff program, we are a group of individuals, a team of individuals. But check your individual ego at the door. We're trying to make this better for everyone. And the only way to do it is by making the energy level contagious. Amir Delic played Illinois. A good friend of mine, Bobby Reynolds, who coaches at Auburn, actually worked with him when he was a junior. The Illinois team that Amir Delic came in, he lived over in Windermere, which is really close by where we are. And he came over for it and worked with our kids. And I've never seen a guy, this is an ATP player, walk into the tennis facility and start hitting with kids, and he looked like a little kid. And he was like, what? Why are you so excited? I expected you to come in and hit with the kids, and you'd be like, this is what, he goes, this reminds me of Illinois when I was back there. The energy is contagious. These kids, forget about their level. Okay, they're all wanting to work. They're all wanting to be here. And I was like, that's something I take pride in as a manager. Okay, is that you got people like that recognize that and actually appreciate that, and that's the environment we're trying to put out there for the culture. I love the last quote: "Be a thermostat, not a thermometer." Being willing to change, be adaptable, be creative. Okay. And that is, whatever the desired temperature, and it's good, and it is the cool part about it. That desired temperature is going to be different at a municipality, an HOA, or a public facility. It just is, okay? Like I said, you're going to have 10% of the ladies alpha players who are going to be there, complaining to you that their captain won't play them higher than line 4, and they're missing out on the Caesar salad or the. It's all gone by the time they're done. You just got to look at them and go, I get it. We're going to get better. And then you treat them differently. I'm not going to do that in a municipality because they're not going to be able to walk up to the front desk and worry about any of that. But I got to make sure that that lady wants to, she's getting her honeydew or she's getting her melon, that she deserved a cantaloupe is always out, that kind of stuff. So be willing to, change the desired temperature. Make jokes, make fun, make fun of them. Okay? Don't equate it to the job they're in. Just understand, hey, come on. She, lo and behold, is the one lady that was complaining about her captain not playing her at 4, that I made sure she was the first one at the end of the match. How'd you do today, Susie? She was, I won. I was like, yes. She was the one lady that I made sure that I went out that day and made sure that I recognized to everyone that she won, because I had to do that, because I knew she was going to be upset that she wasn't getting cantaloupe, or she was going to be late for the bus stop to pick up their kid. There it is. It's posted. You obviously can't read it. I apologize for that. But that's it. It's right on the indoor court building. And I obviously play on words. I use you
I also use the UTA way as a little bit of a joke, but I use U and the T in teamwork as far as I do it. Big fan of this. I know Butch alluded to pie charts. As far as changing or entering into agreements with facilities, I think this is important. There's no percentages specifically here, but I think those are the things when we talk about doing it. I hold near and dear to my life the quality of life and work-life balance. I do hold high for our brand reputation, our customer member satisfaction. Yes, financial gain is a component. There's no doubt about it. Okay, but I don't know where it fits into the ecosystem of our company with these different facilities. And then the most important one I have right now, because I'm getting really old, staff opportunities and mentoring by doing different creative things. I'm not going to be doing this long. I had one of the people in this room asked me, what do you want your legacy to be? Staff opportunities and mentoring so I could be irrelevant in a couple of years and know the show can go on. I owe it to UTA to be able to do that. That's something I hold near and dear to my heart. So that's to do that. I don't think I have another one other than this one. I know I have like 2 more minutes. I finished pretty close to on time. I do consider managers as coaches and managers and coaches as tutors rather than correctors. I find this really important. This is the last thing I wanted to end on. Pre-plan versus post-analyze. I use the equation this way. Most of us in the teaching business correct people when they do something wrong. You should have more topspin on that ball. You opened up, you pulled off. It's overdone. It's already done. They've already done the mistake. They already made the mistake. Okay? Over and over again, it's like a triple negative. If all they're hearing is negativity after they make a mistake, and they still make a mistake, it's like a triple negative. They feel like, what's wrong with me? I like the idea of us tutoring, me coming with you a skill set, pre-plan what they are to do, stop talking to them about what they're not to do. Don't tell people what not to do. You did this, did this. Start to pre-plan. Tell them, hey, I know it's simple, it's in the same family. You opened up. How about stay turned a little bit longer? I know they're the same family, but once it sounds negative, you know what? Don't double fault. Guess what people do? They double fault. Okay? Hey, stay a little bit taller on your serve. That's pre-planning and talking about something. I know it's a neutral comment and it's in the same family. I'm just a huge fan of talking to them about tutoring because they have a skill set, reinforce what they're doing well, as opposed to always being corrector and always telling them what they did wrong. I'm a huge fan of that. And the last thing I wanted to ask is, anybody have any other creative ways, because I'm trying to learn from you guys as much as possible, creative ways that they reward or admonish some of their staff? Like the last second or so, does anybody have anything as far as a reward system that's not necessarily financial? Mine, I told you earlier, is simply telling them thank you, face to face, not via email, not via text. Hey, good job today. Having annual checks. Does anybody else have any creative things? Please tomorrow find me, because as I'm doing this mentoring program with our staff, paying for their dues and doing all this stuff, I'm trying to do more creative ways on rewarding. Yes, it can be financial, it can be commission-based, okay, whatever. But I'm trying to find some creative ways. So please find me tomorrow. I know my time's up, but please find me tomorrow in the morning if you have any ideas as far as how to do that. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.